Today we're going to go over about the model that helped build himself, that is Minimax M2.7, and we're going to test it and compare with other models like Claude. So Minimax M2.7 just launched this week, and Minimax is basically a very known company already. So this is the website of the release, and it says right here the benchmark. So pretty tied up with all the current top models, and it also compares with the latest model, that is M2.5. So if we check the open router models, M2.5 is the second most used model, so with 1.4 trillion tokens per week, and M2.7 is still a bit shy with 300 billion tokens per week. It isn't being the most used right now, and this is probably because I've looked this up a little bit and found that it is most being used by OpenClaw. So this is M2.7, and in the benchmarks it has a severe problem of hallucination rate. So it hallucinates a lot compared with M2.5. So M2.5 is both being used by killer code, and its hallucination rate is very low. So this is probably why M2.7 aren't really being used that much. But this is a very cool model that brings us a new concept of M2 model iteration system, that is basically an iteration system that the model improves itself. So very similar with the Andre Karpathy's new GitHub repo about the self-improving agent. His GitHub is a little bit more simpler because anyone can run it, and this one is a bit worse, a bit more steps for being specific to M2 models. But talking about the benchmark and capabilities of this model, as we've seen, in relation to the software engineering benchmark, it is tied with GPT 5.3 codex, and it is the hardest real-world software engineering benchmark available. So, and GPT 5.3 is a very good model for coding. It is already post-November 2025, so it can essentially code things by itself. It doesn't require a human all the time to maintain the code. And this model was built for agents, not exactly chatbots, so it runs long workflows with tools, so it is trained exactly with tools. We can see here some data about their testing, so 97% adherence across 40 complex tasks with 2000 plus tokens each, so native background in OpenClaw, killer code, and other agentic harnesses, and long context plus to use, what separates an agent from a chatbot. So it isn't exactly just built for responding things, it is built for using tools and long context form and things like that. And of course, the self-optimization is the differential right here. So Minimax used that iteration system that I've showed for the development processes. So it is an autonomous loop of read failure logs, plan and modify, scaffold, evaluate, and keep or revert the changes. So it ran 100 plus cycles, and the model discovered by itself optimal sampling parameters, cross-file bug patterns, infinite loop detection, things like that. It is basically what AI is being designed for, to make itself better. And after it does that, it can essentially just build itself. It doesn't require us anymore. And of course, as I said, it did 100 plus autonomous cycles during development, so without any human in the loop. And it improved 30% by the internal benchmarks. So this is very interesting. So the AI model just improved itself by 30%. Of course, there's a lot to improve in this kind of self-improving AI, but it is a very good start right here. And the pricing is also something very surprising. So it is very, very low pricing. It's $0.3 per million input token and $1.2 per million output token. And if we compare with other models, so we can see right here on their artificial analysis benchmarks, it is essentially 50 on the artificial analysis intelligence index, so pretty high up in this index. And if we check its pricing, so we can see right here, that is M2.7, is basically the cheapest, highest intelligence model there is. The next comparable model there is with it is GLM5, and is a bit more pricey. So you can see that Minimax is basically 1/3 of the price of GLM5. And of course, if we compare it with the other AI providers, that is Anthropic and OpenAI and Gemini from Google, we can see that they are basically burning money to get the top models and things like that. But these Chinese models are 97% cheaper than the US models. Of course, they aren't the same quality, but they are pretty close. So you can essentially do the same things, but 97% cheaper. That is a lot cheaper. And most use cases don't really need the highest tier models to work. Of course, if you're developing top tier things, you're gonna want to use the best ones. But for most tasks, you don't need it. And what changes for you is that exactly that you need to start building model agnostic systems that doesn't really depend on the model itself. So as the inference prices keep falling with these competitions from Chinese models, you need to be able to switch from model to model to test and analyze the results and see which AI model can give you the best results for the less price. And the real risk is lock-in, so building everything on one API and separate business logic from a specific model. So one very good practical thing that you can do is basically build with Open Router. So we can check right here that Open Router can run essentially any model, so even Minimax, DeepSeek, Claude, Gemini, OpenAI, GLM. So you can see right here, basically you can just build with Open Router and then switch models. And this is a very, very good way to use and build these model agnostic systems. And to run this Minimax M2.7, we're going to use Ollama. So it has a cloud free tier you can use. So you can run this on Claude, on Codex, on OpenCode, on OpenClaw. And right now we're going to use OpenCode for this. So just copy this command, and then we're going to open anti-gravity and then run this command right here. And of course, you're going to need at least Ollama and OpenCode installed, but this is pretty straightforward. And after we got this, we are going to switch to the plan mode, and we can see right here, Minimax M2.7 Ollama. And we're going to test this by building an app. So, and before we begin, I'm also gonna run Claude, so just to compare and run the same system prompt for both of them. And the system prompt will be something like, build me and of course, plan mode for both of them. And right here, I'm using Sonnet 4.6 with medium effort. And the example would be, build me a vampire survivors clone. And if you don't know the game itself, look, do the research about it and create the perfect clone. So let's run this with both of them and see what happens. So Minimax just need the research and then selected the core mechanics. So auto attack weapons, endless waves, XP gem drops, okay, 6 weapon plus 6 passives, 15 mean soft time limit, gold coins, and then it is asking some clarifying questions. We are actually going to use HTML5 canvas plus JS. We could also choose phaser, but let's just go with the HTML canvas. Minimum MVP, full clone, complete clone with all features, so yeah. And with art style, we're going to go to modern 2D vectors. So clean vector style 2D art scale as well. So let's go for that and then confirm. So we can see that Minimax is already building the plan right here. And Claude is still just initializing its skills and designing the clone architecture. So 3 minutes already and still nothing. And right here, it is asking more clarifying questions. So, and it created 5 phases of development. So we're gonna go over single HTML file, all text automatic. I think the game itself is also all text automatic. And multiplayer, no, right now. Okay, so Claude finally gave me a plan right here. It didn't ask any questions, and it already decided. So HTML5, just like the other one, a vanilla JavaScript, and no dependencies, geometric shapes only, so a bit different, but that's fine. And states. So yeah, that's just yes, and auto accept edits. Okay, so Minimax and Claude just finished the game, and so to play, Claude is asking for start a local server. So we're going to start it, and Minimax says it doesn't need any server. So let's test this. Okay, so this is what Minimax created, and I don't know, I'm kind of stuck in this screen. I don't know how to start. So I'm going to ask it how to start it. So while Minimax is fixing it, let's test the Claude Code one. So this is the start, and this is the game. If you don't know this game, this is basically a wave, a survival game where the enemies comes in waves, and you just have to survive. Basically, try to dodge the attacks, and the attacks by yourself actually go automatic, so you don't have to do anything, just dodge. So it is essentially working very nice. Oops, level up. So the game is getting kind of hard right here, but that's fine. It is working quite nicely. I don't know if the update, if the upgrade of my weapon actually worked, but it is getting harder and harder because I can get EXP. Okay, so a new item. Fast forward projectile. Okay. And just like the real game, we can see that the things are very similar. So the weapons are very similar and things like that. One thing that is different is that the enemies are getting on top of each other, and that doesn't happen in the real game. But I guess that's fine. We just need to fix this later if we want. But yeah, this is very impressive. I always get super impressed by Claude Code and Claude, because it always gives me great results, great outputs, and I'm always impressed with its results. Okay, so I've been playing this for 10 minutes. I actually got a bit addicted to it. So this is a very, very nice game. Actually, the Vampire Lord arrived. So 10 minutes and we've got a boss. Of course, in the real game, I think there are a little more bosses in this. But this is fine. This is a very nice game. And let's kill the boss and see what we've got. What we get. So in the real game, I think we get loot boxes. I don't know if it created loot boxes right here. So let's test this. So there was already half HP. Okay, so there is no loot box, but we got some XP from it. And I don't think I'm gonna wait until the 15 minutes mark. I'm getting kind of addicted to it. But this is very nice, and Claude is a very good model, as we can see. Let's see if Minimax fixed its own code. So it says right here to clean the empty cache and hard reload. Right click the refresh button. So local storage, let's clear this, and then F5. So okay, we see the characters right here, and select a character, click again or press enter to start. So the game started, and there seems to have an issue with the player. So the player is always at the top and isn't in the middle, and I don't even know if it's shooting. We've got the XP bar, but we can't see anything. So this is very different. I don't think we're shooting anyone, and I don't know how to shoot. Yeah. So this is the experiment. We can see that Claude is very superior in this case, and it is kind of a deception for Minimax that showed some very great results on the benchmarks, but in real testing, it just wasn't up to the task. And I don't know if we can just vibe our way out of this, but Claude just did a very great job, a very better job than Minimax. That it's kind of a shame, but this is a new model, and of course its pricing is so low that it is actually a very good idea to test in your own application if it works. So yeah, I hope you guys liked the video about Minimax, and I see you guys the next one.